All right, we'll call to order. And the first order of business is the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. Math curriculum, 7 through 12.
So we've got our 7 through 12, which is actually morphed into the 6 through 12. We're just calling it the secondary math program discussion. And we've got a number of teachers here with us to discuss the experience that they had with the programs and with the process. And I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves. We'll get started.
I'm Jillian Spiro. I teach at the high school. I'm Corey Fielding. I also teach at the high school.
Scott Kramer, 8th grade math.
And Carol Murray, now 7th grade math, soon to be 6th grade math.
So they're here to talk a little bit about their experience in what they learned through piloting the program. And the program materials are scattered across the tables over there. Reveal is the program that we are going to be promoting and asking to purchase. We've got the high school materials are down at that end, and the middle school materials are sort of right in front of the subcommittee members. They're labeled by grade number. And so maybe Corey and Jillian, if you want to talk a little bit about what you found in Reveal when the students used it, and what you liked about the program, what you saw in there.
You can start.
Okay.
So we found that from the student's perspective, the notes are pretty extensive and easy for the students to engage with. They can get started independently, or it can be a teacher-led instructional time. I've also found that within each unit, they offer like many opportunities for the kids to practice independently. So in the lesson itself, there's like an example that we could do as a full class, and then like you check on your own. And then at the end of each unit, there's also many opportunities for kids to practice. They give a huge practice bank. And that was pretty cool in the book that we were happy with. We were also really happy with the online portion. We didn't have a ton of time to work with it, but we worked with it when we were getting ready to assess the kids on this unit. And the online portion already has a huge test bank of pre-made tests. They have differentiated tests, so many different versions of the same test. But then you can also modify each question within their test that is already made. And then you can build your own test with their question bank. So like when it comes to the testing portion, the assessment option, like they already have a ton of pre-made options, and there's many opportunities for like us to build our own test too. Which we didn't find that with some of the other curriculums that we worked with.
Something else about this book that I found that the kids really liked was the practice questions really they were building, so they didn't start too challenging. They started a little bit easier, and then they kept getting more challenging. And they also, at the end of each section, had more bigger, broader thinking questions. So it pushed the kids to think outside the box a little bit more, which was really nice, because they don't always get that opportunity, and we're trying to push that more for them. We hit a lot of what we liked.
So they settled on Reveal after looking at, as Corey alluded to, a number of different programs. And the process we used for this was exactly the same as what we used for the elementary process, in that we looked to see what the ratings were on ed reports. We had the teachers look and use the IMET to do a lot of the analysis to see if it was even worth us trying to use any of the materials with our students at all. And initially, everybody from the middle and the high school level started with a program called Illustrative Math. But that one we quickly discounted on all levels because students just did not understand what they were learning. They couldn't tell you what the purpose of the lesson was. They didn't grasp the meaning of it. So we ended up pivoting to a few other ones. And after doing a lot of testing with different classes and different teachers used a lot of the different versions, especially at the high school level where we have more teachers to practice or to pilot these materials, we settled on Reveal. So the materials at the high school level, they were pretty satisfied with what they had for those points that they made. Now, Carol and Scott had not had a chance to pilot the materials at the middle school level, and the other middle school teacher who was not able to make it, who teaches math. But the materials did arrive, and they would be a seamless transition going from the 5th grade program of Envision, starting with 6th grade and going 6 through 12, staying in the same program. But Scott and Carol do use components of what Reveal would have as a package. So looking at Reveal as a package, not only would you have the student book, which for the high school, I know that they preferred the hardcover book. Middle school, it only comes in a soft cover book, but that's appropriate for the developmental level. There is also the teacher editions that would be provided. And what we've got for middle school is only half of the grade level material. So they only sent us volume 1 out of the 2. So that's why it looks like it's so small there. But there's also an electronic component, and we often talk about the software and the technology that we're using in our buildings. And what is important to recognize is that the bundle comes with 3 different pieces. There is a piece called Alex, which is a bank that we've been purchasing as a separate sort of standalone at the high school, especially where students use it for reteaching, retraining, practice, standardized test type problems, but that would come as part of this bundle. There's also something in there called Desmos, which Scott and Carol have used, and I'll let them talk a little bit about what's great about that component, which is included in this. And then there's also something called Sketchpad, which is another electronic or online component that students would be using to help them understand the different component of math. So Scott and Carol, why don't you talk a little bit about Desmos and what that looks like in the classroom and why that's a good feature?
Sure. So Desmos has 2 features. One's a graphing calculator. So it kind of gives the ability to go away from the handheld calculator to an online computer one. There's also an app on the phone, of course. So that's for graphing. The nice thing about the graphing feature is you can type in any kind of form and it will graph it for you. So it doesn't have to be in a specific form. So they can play around and type in anything and kind of see what kind of shape they get and stuff like that. So it's a nice tool to have. It's really great too as a quick check. So, try it first on your own, type it in, see if it matches up, kind of stuff like that. That's the graphing calculator piece. The other piece is more of a hands-on kind of activity that can be used for discovery or for a kind of a formative or an assessment check for them. And there's a bunch of different things. One thing is called a card sort, where you can create different cards and it's all on the screen, and then you have to match them up appropriately. So it could be like, some vocab words, and then you would grab the right thing and attach it to the card. So you kind of organize them kind of like that. You can also attach where there's another slide which will evaluate it. And if they get it right, they get like fireworks. If not, it says, oh, go back and try again. So they can kind of do a self-check, on their own kind of thing. They can also do a lot of discovery. There's a cool one with a turtle walking and a graph with distance and time. And as you draw kind of what's happening, it'll make the turtle move. So they get to see, why is it moving forward? Why is it moving fast? Why did it stop and stay still? Why you can't have more than one turtle. So it's a cool activity for them to kind of discover a lot of stuff on as well. There's a lot of activities that are already built out there, and it's a pretty friendly and easy to use to make your own. I've made a ton of them myself, and I've also kind of stolen or borrowed from other people. And it's nice because you can edit it too. You can take what they have and make it form more toward your specific class or your topic, kind of stuff like that. So Desmos has a lot of neat features, and it's a nice kind of extra piece out there where the students can use it to kind of help their learning.
And Scott introduced me to it, so I've been using it as well. And it's great because it has that pacing tool as well.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So you can start an activity, introduce what it's all about, and the kids are like frozen on that first screen, so they can't be moving ahead before you really get the directions and maybe do an example together. And you can limit how many screens they can see at a time. And I think that's really helpful. And then you also have a dashboard where you can see how the students are doing as they're going through the problem. So you can monitor it.
And you can actually click on that and it'll show you all the responses, or individual responses, or if you have an answer key attached to it, you can see if they're right or not. And you can also have a message center where you can send them feedback. So they go back and check that slide, kind of thing like that. So it's a nice extra monitoring tool.
So we've got a nice bundle that we're going to be asking the subcommittee to approve for the secondary math program. And at this time, we'll open it up to some questions and we'll have a little bit of a discussion.
Well, I'll just start real quick and say thank you for all the work. Thank you for piloting. I know you guys didn't get to pilot, but thank you for doing all of this. I unfortunately didn't get to come in and review everything in person, but I did, take what you sent me and I did kind of go through it. I honestly just listening to you guys talk about it, having you excited about it, makes me on board. I didn't see anything that was really wrong with it. I know there's a couple things that, I had some questions about, but there's never going to be a perfect math program. But just hearing you guys excited about it makes me on board. So I guess that's where I'm going to go for right now.
Yeah, so I spent some time going through the different programs. I spoke with Scott, I spoke with Corey over the course of a week or so. I would echo Don's comments. Obviously, a lot of work went into it, a lot of information. I took all the feedback that I got quite seriously and took it quite to heart. I do believe the statement that there is no such thing as a perfect program. Ultimately, if we're going to be successful, you're going to make it successful, because it's the teachers that are going to drive whether or not we're going to succeed. It's not so much the books, although the books are important to have as a basis to work off on. My recollection when we did K through 6, we were kind of neck and neck between Envision and Reveal, and Reveal was just not ready for prime time yet. They were piloting it, and they sent us a pilot to pilot, and we
That was just for the
for the K through 6, correct? Yes.
K5.
Right.
No,
Right,
it was
yes.
just for the K5 that was in pilot. 6-8 has been ready.
Right.
I just want to correct that
Okay.
statement.
But what we were looking at the time was
Yes.
K through 6, and the feeling was that program wasn't ready. And we selected Envision, and rightfully so, because they were very, very close. So to me, with Envision and moving into Reveal in middle school and Reveal in high school helps put some consistency and some coherence to the whole program from K through 12. That should help to make sure that what each of you get, the feeder group coming in will be prepared for what's coming next in a way that perhaps we haven't been as prepared as we need to be. And we've struggled coming out of the grade school into the middle school and coming out of middle school into high school. And hopefully by having this all tied together, will allow us to be able to make those handoffs more successfully and propel the students forward. So I thank you for the efforts and the energy. I think the programs all had, the ones that I looked at anyways, all had some things going for them. I think Reveal was, in my mind, was clearly the best program that I've seen. I liked a number of things with it, particularly when they had practice programs, they actually had differentiation to say, if you're getting this level of grades in your practice, then here's the next set of practice things I want you to work on. And if you have this other level of gradings, and here's a reinforcement practice that you should really be doing first. And if you're struggling and you're not getting good grading, then here's what you really need to do to build that base so that you can then get up to the next steps. And I thought that was quite nice to have that built directly into the math program. That saves the teachers at times from having to create that themselves, so they can quickly turn that over to the kids and the students and then focus more on the teaching and instruction. So I'm in favor of the Reveal program. It looked quite good to me.
I also want to thank everyone for their participation and involvement, and I'm really looking forward to putting up a program in place that that you guys are enthusiastic about and that you've had some experience with, in terms of piloting and reviewing it. And I like the integration also of the Reveal from 6 through 12. That just appealed to me too. I spent some time talking to Patty and Donna getting, their feedback about feedback that we've gotten from other districts and the outside world. I'm on board as well.
Great, so I think
So
my
What's the
question
next
is,
step?
the next step would be for the subcommittee to move the program to the board, and I think that from a timing perspective, we would like, probably be news to the teachers, but we would like to do it on the 18th. Even though Patty and Donna are not available, I'm happy to be there and answer whatever questions I can for the full board, so that we can order the materials and get them in as soon as possible, so that the full 6 through 12 staff can have an opportunity to review them. Am I correct about that, Patty?
Yeah, because the concern that we've gotten, and Donna's got more of this information from the people she's been talking to, there's still a worldwide paper shortage, and the sooner we can get in line for the order, the easier chance we're gonna have at getting the materials in a timely manner. So the sooner you are in the front of the line, they'll use up the paper, you'll be there before the paper runs out, kind of a thing. And what that would entail also is that we would then receive materials for our teachers to start working on some of the work that we've got coming up this June, to start writing up the year at a glance, start doing some of that work. So if they've got teacher materials in front of them in June, that would be very helpful. So it's the whole paper shortage thing that we're really running up against, but we can't control that part of it.
So I would ask for a motion.
I'll move to adopt the secondary reveal math program for the district, to provide to the board on the May 18th meeting for a vote.
I'll second that.
Okay,
And I just want to make one comment for discussion on that.
sure.
I just want to make sure, so we're doing that the 18th, and Donna and Patty aren't here. We don't want to be stealing the thunder, kind of, so to speak. They've done an awful lot of work on this.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be having a discussion and they're not going to be present. So I just want to acknowledge that now.
Well,
And we
it's
should acknowledge it in the
also,
meeting
it's also
tonight,
Matt, and
too.
it's Steve,
Well, I
and
was-
it's all these
I was gonna
teachers and
thank you
teachers who
guys
aren't here.
for supporting them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's-
that's the
it's-
most important.
because-
it's the teachers.
Just to give you a quick, this was a crazy experience. We did not like they did not like the first textbook.
None of them, none of them, hands down. That was
I
awful.
remember that conversation.
And we had to pivot. Some places weren't sending us materials. Some of us didn't get all the materials, and they just, no matter what I threw at them, and I had a lot of nervous moments, like, oh my God, they're gonna kill me. But they just rolled with it. So I'm actually gonna thank you two, and I didn't get to work with you guys, but I want to thank you guys for being able to roll with it. So when they came out with a strong feeling on this, I was really excited. And I know Jamie went through every page. And so the fact that you guys are good with it really makes me feel good. And the work that you guys did, it was just, I know it was a lot. So I want to thank you
These
guys.
four are representing everybody else who isn't here,
Yeah.
who went through all of this stuff and did it without complaining and did it without, we still all
There were
have
no
our heads
complaints.
attached. So, I mean, they rolled with it, and it's a testament to the ability of all of our teachers who are professional and can get the job done. And that's not said enough. I mean, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, but they get the job done, they dig in, they do what needs to be done. And, we are very fortunate that that's the, attitude that they all have. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've met with much more resistance for much smaller asks in the past
Yep.
with teachers, and I couldn't believe, like, when we switched from IM to mid-school math, from mid-school math to reveal, you guys just troopers and did what was right for the school, so.
Yep.
Impressive.
I would like feedback next year, and I don't want to wait until the end of the year. So I would like to come and meet with you in October and just hear how things are going once it's real time, because a pilot is one thing. But I specifically want to hear from our middle school folks who have been really flexible. So we felt like if we did this 6 through 12, that you would have opportunities for professional development as the two schools simultaneously. And we felt like we could talk about the scope and sequence or any issues that come up. But like Jamie said, no program's perfect. And our kids are our kids. And the implementation year is always tricky because you have them come in. I'm so sorry. You have them come in you have them, the kids come in with whatever skills they have, and they're gonna be in different places, and they're, you know, the third year of the program is when it really starts to take root, and the kids have been through a few years of the program, everyone's getting used to things, so we just want you to know that we don't expect next year to be perfect because we picked a program. We expect next year to be kind of, okay, we've got a good sense of this. Now we're going to go through a whole year. I want you to hear that we want to reflect and make adjustments and have a conversation about what's next. What do we need to supplement? What do we need to slow down on? What do we need to speed up? Where are things working? So this is just the beginning.
They received no PD on this reveal right now.
Yeah, so we have to
So
do a
they
lot
did
of work.
all of this on their own.
All right.
With that, have a good evening. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Oh, they need to
so
vote.
much.
They need to vote.
Oh,
The 3 people need
Oh,
to
we didn't
vote.
vote yet. He made the motion, I seconded.
And then we had discussion.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
Any
discussion,
further
yeah.
discussion? All in favor?
now you can
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Are you staying with us?
So your motion, Jamie?
You?
Thank
You
you.
just
Was
leave
to
it. Yep, that's good.
recommend
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank
To
you.
the full board on May.
That's basic.
Yeah.
To recommend to the full board on May 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Next.
So the next item is the grade level overview that we are going to have our teachers put together, grades K through 8. And this is the document that parents would be receiving at open house. We're just looking at this for discussion so that we can get our teachers working on this. This is part of the work that's going to be happening. When I had requested, I don't know when, a few weeks, months back, times blending for the 2 extra days in June. This is part of the work that the teachers are going to get done, is to get the overviews in place, which is really a broad brushstroke of what happens during the typical year. And this would be grades K through 8 would have this, and this is, again, a draft. And what's in here is not our stuff necessarily. It's an example of what it would look like for all grade levels K through 8. Yep, we've all got one. Perfect, thank you.
See one over there, Jamie?
I don't.
Okay.
Thought it seemed a lot thicker than what I was.
Did you
looking
take
at on
an
the
extra
computer
too?
screen. I did, yeah.
Me too.
That's a lot more pages than I see on my computer screen here.
So the intent of this document is something that the grade levels would work on together, or at the secondary level, at the middle school, figuring out by department what needs to go in each section. And especially for our unified arts, which would be art, music, phys ed. And hand that out at open house, and also have it posted to the website, so parents have an idea of what's happening each trimester in these subject areas. Or in the case of middle school, it would be by quarter.
And can I just say that this is kind of, in a way, something that I personally value and I would like feedback on. And the reason why I value it is that we have had a lot of conversations about parents not feeling, or I don't want to say, well, we want to increase parent engagement as an organization. And in order to increase parent engagement, we need to make sure that parents can understand in regular folks' language, plain speak, what a kid will know and be able to do roughly in the course of a year. And so if we want to invite them to have conversations with us, we have to put it in a format that's easy to understand. A lot of districts, when you click on their website, you kind of see a year at a glance and a teacher speak. This is what happens through the year. And this was designed to be in people speak. And we still will have, I just want everyone to know, we'll still have teacher speak documents.
That's the year at a glance.
The year at a glance is a teacher document. Parents can review it. It's not anything hidden. And then underneath that, there may be more specific units that we develop that we don't share publicly, not because we don't want parents to see them, but because we don't want them to be plagiarized once we write them. So they're designed for us to have as working documents for teachers on the deepest level, literally the curriculum that they're teaching, that right, like the literal lessons. If anyone wants to talk about them, we're happy to talk about them, but they won't be posted underneath this. What would be underneath this in the website is you could look at the year at a glance, which is a little more technical. I have to say that we looked at a couple of models for the overview, and Patty came to me and said, is this enough detail? What do you think? And I felt like this landed pretty close, but we're dying to hear from you because we're always educators and we're always looking at it. You can't take the hat off. It's kind of how we do things. So we're curious to hear what you think.
Doesn't matter. I went first last time, I guess I could go first again. I liked that when I first pulled this up, I was like, oh, now I know my kids do. You know what I mean? It's easy to see what the expectations are, where they're supposed to be at. And that's really a huge piece that I feel like has been missing. So I think this is a great way to connect the parents to what the kids are doing when they bring it home. And where they're supposed to be, it's like, okay, well, they're not doing represent and interpret data until trimester 3. So I'm not going to worry so much about it because we're only in trimester 2 right now. You know, because I mean, sometimes we're going, well, are they where they're supposed to be? You know, or if you see your kids coming home with something that's a little bit ahead, you know, okay, well, my kid they might be given a little extra work. Maybe they're a little bit ahead, you know, oh, I can talk to the teacher about that. You know, so I mean, it kind of gives the parents a better idea of where their kid is at based on what they're seeing them come home with and what they're seeing here. So for me, this is a huge step in the right direction to getting that homeschool communication level. So I really appreciate that it's, like you said, it's simplistic, but it gives you enough. We don't have time to sit down. We're running 100 million miles an hour.
Yeah,
We don't have time to sit down and read detailed everything. So quick glance, like, is my kid working on what they're supposed to be working on? You know, oh, are they still doing this? Is that where they're supposed to be, or are they behind? You know what I mean? So that's the question I always had as a parent is, are my kids where they're supposed to be? You know, so being able to see this will help the parents understand where they're at, what the next step is. So if they're really struggling, it's like, okay, but you're almost through and this is the next step. And I think it's going to make sense because this is where we'll put it all together. You know what I mean? And I feel like you can also kind of be a little bit of a cheerleader for your kid too, because you know what the next step is. Or if you feel like, okay, I see they're really struggling in this, you can say, you send a quick message to the teacher like, hey, I think we may be a little behind. The next step might be a little tough. What are you guys seeing? You know, and I think it just helps to open up that communication. So,
And I'll just say quickly that ties into all grade reporting.
right.
That really the goal is to generate a conversation about what students know and are able to do and what the next steps are for them to grow. And the growth mindset and the growth model is an important conversation, but that's a way bigger conversation.
It's a way bigger
You can see that this is, I'm
conversation.
planting the seeds for those
This is
conversations.
the start of that.
Yes, yeah.
And I can see that, so I can appreciate that.
So a number of comments. So I spent a lot of time went through and looking what else is out there, what do other districts do, what does Timberline do, what does Exeter do, what does Massachusetts do? I pulled down some of their items and just as an example, I grabbed the 4th grade math. This is everything. This is Timberlane's just math. Right, and so I think that we struck a good prioritization. If we tried to do this with everything else on the table, we just wrote failure in capital letters. We won't get there. There's too much going on. So how do we prioritize and provide what we need to be able to get where we want to be? Likewise, I looked at, this is just math for Massachusetts, and it's longer than what we have here. Now, I'm not saying we need to do these. Personally, I'd like a little bit more meat, but when I say a little bit more meat, maybe a few more line items in each trimester. But I think this is exactly what we need to have in the end is and Don talked about, well, then you can see what's coming next. I think more importantly, from a parent perspective, you can see the progression of grades. I can look at what was second, what is third, what is 4th, 5th, and 6th that are coming up for my kid, and what does that mean? So if I want to be engaged, now I have a means of trying to help them and to make sure that they're absorbing things and that if in fact I'm looking at a report card, go back to your grading discussion, if I'm looking at a report card that's telling me that somebody's got a B, then I can look at that and say, okay, I know what we just studied here. I can find a workbook on that at Amazon or at Walmart or what have you, and I can work on that. So I think this strikes a good balance to make sure that we have something deliverable that's usable and can help drive the district. But doesn't get us caught in a morass that we can't get back out of. Now, maybe over time, in the 5-year plan, maybe when you're out in the 5th year or what have you, we can start revisiting these as we, this is a living document saying, you know what, this is really good. Can we strengthen it? Which is all fine and dandy. That's just part of continuous improvement. But I think it was a nice job that was done in terms of structuring this such as a deliverable, usable document to aid teachers. I know there's the teachers speak documents in the background, but still this aids a discussion, this still aids teachers because it aids a teacher discussion with the parent. And when the parent is trying to interpret what the teachers are saying, when it's all in teacher speak, the eyes glaze and they're like, you know, talk to me. I mean, what you're saying isn't registered. This is a document that can be used to great effect to work with the parents to drive that. So I think it was a nice balance that was struck. Personally, as I said, I like a little bit more meat, but when I say that, I don't mean to the depths of this. It's just a few more line items maybe to just fill it in a little bit more, but I think it's a very good means of prioritizing and pulling that together and saying, and I like the fact that you're coming in and saying, all right, guys, if you have an issue with it, let's get it on the table. This is a direction that we're going together, and we need to make sure everybody's on board with that, because this is what we're going to be spending some time at the end of the year on. That time has been granted. So I appreciate the work behind that, and I think it's a very nice job to get us to where we need to go.
Okay, well, pretty much, I agree. With what both Don and Jamie said. When I would get curriculum, stuff at the beginning of the year, they had to sign for your kids every year. It was a lot, and you know,
Too much.
it was
Goes
very
right over your
overwhelming.
head,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like, and I'm not, you know, an educator, so I can't really judge the content here, but you know, at least this for me would be easier as a 4th grade parent to have a sense of what, you know, what my student was going to be learning throughout the year and where, if they were getting behind or if they were ahead, I suppose. And I guess I agree with Jamie. I think especially maybe, you know, in social studies, especially, I guess if I were a parent, I would look at this and think trimester 1, they're just gonna be doing those 2 things. So I maybe a little more fleshed out, but
No, this is
that's-
just, it was
So-
just a draft.
I was gonna-
Yeah,
I was
I-
thinking
I-
that-
I had a paper and it was
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, well, so,
These are the types of things, but there will be more of them.
yeah.
So you're correct that I just didn't want to, I was kind of waiting for the 3 of you to.
But so, yeah, I like it.
We were looking for feedback on the format, the types of sentences, but there'll be more of them for sure. So like Jamie said, a little more meat on the, and I would agree that for some of these, maybe just a couple more things. And I think that the vision of.
History, maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 pages.
Yes, you know, yes. I was thinking the music could be 4 times longer, but we can have that conversation.
We all
later.
have our preferences.
That's right. I think that this is a great place to start. And I envision someday that these little things could be hyperlinks to more information.
Yeah.
Right? So I always think about it in a 3-dimensional way. So you might be able to click on this and get that deeper information in a few years. For now, this would be the overarching document that comes out of, the way it'll probably work, tell me if I'm wrong, Patty, is they'll make the year at a glance and then create this. Right? Because this is the product, the year at a glance is the teacher level, this document, and then they'll create this from that, and then they create the units. And remember that you can have a math curriculum, but that doesn't mean that gives you your units. There may be times when they look at this, what we're talking about with units is the amount of time, the topics that are covered in that amount of time. It doesn't mean that they're going to follow the sequence, but there may be things that they see in here where they're like, oh my goodness, we need to add this during that period of time because it just isn't. And it could be because our current 8th graders didn't get something that was covered in this program in 6th grade. So they have to have the flexibility I call it elasticizing. You have to be elastic about it just a little. The question for curriculum development is how far is too much with being elastic? And that's something that we have to come to an agreement about with our norms. And the way that I like to handle that is that we're explicit about what we're choosing to do. These are the fixed things that teachers will cover in the year. And these are the areas where you have a little more room to respond to what your students are showing you they know and can do. And the way they put it at Columbia University is sometimes you need a ramp up period, a ramp up unit, and sometimes you don't. If the kids are ready for the unit to start, then they don't need a ramp up. If they're not ready and they need a ramp, you can't make them do what they can't do. If they're not ready, they're not ready. You can't change them except by guiding them. So if they're ready, then we don't need to ramp them up. And that's where that elasticity can occur. When we adopt units for reading and writing, I prefer to adopt 4 to 5 core units a year, and then give the teachers autonomy for the other 3 or 4, because they know what they need to do to move the kids into the units that are planned units. So it's the way I think of it is a loose but tight structure. So it's a preview of like what's coming. We need to have a conversation about what's going to be loose and what's going to be tight. Programs give us a framework, but they don't give us the loose and tight. And the teachers will give us feedback about what they saw working and not working as we go through the process of implementing the program. It really is a few years of time to really get to know everything in here with the math program, and then make adjustments, but we do it open. It's open. It's an open conversation. It's transparent. And this leads us to some of that transparency. Well, you said you were going to cover this in trimester 3, but you had to do that. What happened? Oh, well, this is what happened, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to catch that up. Right? It all leads, I can't say it enough, it all needs to lead to a conversation.
So essentially, the overview that you've got in front of you is a summary of what the year at a glance would be from the teachers. And you know, when you write a summary, it's less detailed, more broad speak. So once they've got the year at a glance done, they write this up. We look to see if there's any holes within the grade level or from grade to grade. And then we start working on the more in-depth curriculum development using the programs that we have in place as our footings. So it's really a very sequential, orderly process, but it's also, it's like a house of cards. If you don't have the cards set up the right way, you can't keep going up in the levels. So we've got to make sure we've got everything in.
Great. So I don't really know that we need a motion for this as much as just we were looking for feedback and support. But if it's good to have a motion on the record that you feel comfortable with this, Patty, what would you like?
Either way, however the subcommittee wants to decide.
Why don't we do a motion to adopt this format?
We don't have to bring it to the board, right? We can
Oh,
just-
yeah, no, but I'd like ISA to just
Okay.
be on
So we
record that they,
can, we can just be on record.
Yeah,
that
for
we
ISA.
Support it.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
It might still make sense to do a quick discussion of it on the board, and even if we do it, the ISA team does it ourselves, we, you know, this is why, and this is what it would look like, et cetera, because you get more people that will watch that than will watch this.
Oh, yeah,
generally
for
speaking.
transparency or like,
And to be able to push it back out into the broader community.
well, let's do that on the 18th too. I can shepherd this through.
Again, I think it, and I don't mind having a motion at all.
Yeah.
But I think that this would really help when you're going through your steps. The teachers now have a template, you can say, like, before you say, well, we need a little bit more meat than this, but it gives them a very good idea of what it is that you're looking for, and then, and how it will be used. And they'll start thinking about how I could use this with the parents.
Mhm.
And then we can start working on, you know, we have a PR committee and other committees. How do we engage the parents on this and say, this is what we're gonna do, and how you find it, you know, maybe we do a parents portal or something where all this stuff that is.
well, it's all in Alma.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that'll be your parent portal. And there's a component, part of why we went with Alma is because it has a curriculum component. And parents will be able to go in and see it, but it's gonna be a while before we get there.
Yeah.
So I just don't wanna,
No.
I don't wanna add anything to anyone's plate.
We
That
have an
one's going to
awful
be a
lot
while.
that's going on. That's why I
Yeah.
thought it was a nice, if we had reached for, let's mimic, for example, what Massachusetts did, or let's mimic what the work that had been done at Timberlane. And, you know, those are programs that took 4 or 5 years of work to get to that detail and that interconnectivity. And we just don't have that luxury. So we need something that is still rock solid in quality. without having to divert the resources it would take to get to that level. I think that this is a pretty good start.
Great. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that we use this format for the, what are we calling this?
Grade level
Interface?
overview.
Grade
Grade
level
level
overview.
Overview, going forward.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Just ask what it would, I'm sorry, what it would look like for high school. 'cause
You've
I
got your
understand-
program of studies.
but-
Yeah, you're
So
in a
the
whole
program,
different-
it's very different for high school, which is why you're not gonna have that. You've got a program of studies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, 'cause
That's-
I was
that's
just
not-
trying to
no.
envision what, how you would play out for a
Like
STEM
syllabus.
No,
student versus
no.
an art student and
No.
what that
Yeah,
all look like.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, but I
okay.
think it's good for the video to be clear that the high school has a program of study with the syllabus. This is going to be more for K-8.
Yep.
Right, so thanks for asking, Heidi, that's really helpful. A little bit of a different world at the high school level.
That's what you were. pondering that all night and going on.
I was thinking, I'm like, okay, what
I was
am
gonna
gonna
get a
do?
text later. Oh my.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. We don't, no public comment. Next meeting date scheduled for June 15th. Agenda items that we know about right now.
I don't really have anything right now. I think
Grading, I assume, is gonna be coming up.
the 18th. We're talking about that at the board meeting. Yeah. But we might need to.
Presumably whatever comes out of that. will be
Yeah, we might
more
have to, yeah,
discussion.
yeah, I think we should put that on the agenda because we probably will need to unpack whatever the board comes to, if they do, and if they, and I will say that I'm going to try to handle the grading conversation on the 18th. I feel completely comfortable with that. But if I feel like we get to a point where we can't come to a consensus as a group, then I may ask that they hold until the first when Patty's back, just to have more input and conversations, but I think we're gonna be okay.
And we can also, I mean, if we really need to, I mean, we can also call work meetings. So if
We
need
can.
More time to work on it, we can call work. meetings, so.
I don't know that it'd be more time as it might be, there might be
Well, not
information.
time, but if we need more information. We need
Information,
more-
yeah.
More time to process and digest with the people that have the accurate information that we're trying to get, a work meeting would be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds great, Tom, thank you.
Okay. Any other items that come up between now and then? Or done?
I would say I'd give you an update on curriculum, but we're not gonna be even starting that until the next day, because the 15th is the last day of school, so.
Right.
So we have nothing, I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
But we might get dinner between now and the Fremont meeting.
Hey, you know, I packed a protein shake, so, you know. I'm
Matt's
good.
ordering some pizza if anyone wants some. So,
Okay, we are officially adjourned.
Great.